So, another lively panel. In this context, I think I did tempt fate a little by saying everyone was sticking to time, but we're only slightly over. We spoke on a panel earlier about the killer use cases or the use cases for privacy that captured imagination. I think for my personal needs and personal representation was the first time that I really got the need for confidential computing was via DeFi, and the use cases seemed most obvious to me. Having been the victim of front running, etc., the DeFi use cases were really clear for me. So I'd like to bring a panel in, led by our moderator Carter from Shade Protocol, Supdoggie, the lead developer at SilentSwap, Adrian Brink, co-founder of Namada, Adam, co-founder of Aleph Zero, and Anndy Lian, author and governmental blockchain advisor. So, fantastic panel here. And as I say, this was the part of confidential computing that really got me, DeFi. So, over to you.
All right, we have an awesome panel here. We're going to be talking about shielded DeFi, private DeFi. There's been so much growth and excitement in this corner of the internet, and hopefully we can make it a lot bigger in the coming years. So let's just start off with, who are you? What do you build, and maybe like how you got pulled into privacy in the first place, and try to keep it to like 60 seconds.
Hi, I'm Andy. I'm based in Singapore. Usually I just say I'm a book author, but I actually run a couple of funds. So more recently, I've also worked with a layer one. It's called Meme Core. I'm actually managing their fund, and we are just trying to create more fun stuff, with Meme and using layer one as a way to reach out to more people. How I get into privacy is I realized that privacy is really something that is really important. I used to invest in medical, and then I look at how different data are being breached, are being used, without too much of a permission. So the first thing that I did back in 2017 is to also create a medical record, on blockchain. So that's where I first started. Thanks.
Awesome.
I'm Adam from Aleph Zero. We are building a privacy hub, which we will sell in the same, give to users in the form of private wallet with interchain user experience. And I'm doing privacy because right now personally, I'm using centralized exchanges to shield my funds, and I think it's stupid. So we need better solutions.
That was a record fast intro. I love it.
30 seconds. I took it seriously.
How about you, Supdoggie?
Yeah, hey, I'm Supdoggie. I am the founder of the Starshell wallet on scrt.network. We do a lot of core utilities for the network, so we've published a few snips. Also today I'm representing the lead development of SilentSwap, which is an upcoming privacy swap service that uses scrt.network as its privacy layer.
Awesome, and I'm Carter from Shade Protocol. We're building a private DeFi suite on top of scrt.network. So to really kick this panel off, privacy and the concept of shielding assets in DeFi, it's been around for a long time, So why hasn't the adoption come yet? What in our industry, with all the apps and protocols that have been launched, why have we not seen more traction in this vertical?
Because right now it has terrible user experience, because the proof generation times are over 10 seconds for most of the products, because users need to learn new things. They get scared because they are taught that, well, there are these magical additional secrets called nullifiers, or however the different protocols are calling them, and you also need to remember them, not only the seed, and if you lose any of that, you may lose your funds, and generally this is a complex situation, and well, I don't know. I mean, we're not having a good products there. So, why don't we have an adoption? Because we don't have products. That's, I guess, my answer.
I disagree. I think the biggest problem is regulation, obviously. So, speaking of ZK and nullifiers, the most successful platform to date, I believe, was Tornado Cash. That was classified as a mixer and banned in many countries around the world. Also, Monero is delisted from any centralized exchanges because it's not compliant with these regulations. So, like, make no mistake, it hasn't reached mass adoption because regulators are creating policy to prohibit it because privacy is a threat to governments, basically.
I do 100% agree. So I give advice to different governments. So I think, number one, the regulations are not there. If the regulations are there, it's clearer, I think the adoption would be a lot faster. Putting the regulations aside, I think right now what is also lacking is the things that can get the users excited, right? So if you can make money, then privacy will come after, right? But if you can't even make money, then privacy would not be the main selling point. So my quick answer is this.
So it's an uphill battle to be building with privacy. You have UX issues, you have legislative issues. It's difficult to maybe create yield and excitement in the industry. And I'll toss in a fourth one, which is like liquidity, right? Like you might be interested in jumping into privacy, and then you go and try to make a swap or try to participate, and it's like, I don't want to pay 15, 20% slippage just for a little bit of privacy. So that's honestly why I love privacy builders, is because the cards have been stacked against us for years, and yet we believe that this fundamental property of privacy is powerful and long-term is a really good moat for these products, and that's what we should be building with. So, we've kind of outlined some of the problems. How do you think what is it going to look like to overcome that? And in your products that you use tied to privacy or that you're building, how are you addressing some of those problems that we just mentioned?
Yeah, so definitely privacy services have a liquidity challenge. There's typically higher slippage because all of the liquidity is on public blockchains. So one way to overcome this is to get clever with the way that you are bootstrapping liquidity and find clever ways to borrow liquidity from those public blockchains, but transact or swap privately. That's actually exactly what SilentSwap currently does. I'll pass it on to these guys.
Sorry. This is surprising too. So yeah, I was saying about the UX, so like that's because that's precisely the angle we're targeting. So like we're trying to build a wallet that looks like a regular wallet, so that you don't immediately even maybe notice that this is a private wallet, because we believe that like this is the way it should be shown to users. I mean, yes, I do agree that the Tornado Cash had some users, although these users of Tornado Cash, they have been using the version which was absolutely not a wallet. It was just a mixer. You have been able to mix only the specific amounts. So that was the product for I would say, a pretty narrow use case. What I think we need are the products for much more general use cases, which can replace the ways that people are doing things right now. And I don't think it's reasonable to hope for people replacing the usage of MetaMask with the usage of a private wallet that will need additional knowledge, know-how, or anything. Like actually, even MetaMask requires too much knowledge to be used. Like this is oftentimes pointed out as one of the big factor for why crypto is not getting more adoption. So like putting even more obstacles is absolutely not the way forward here.
I'll jump in really quick and say I think it's fun to watch people put together UI UXs for privacy builders, because we have to be kind of obsessed with it because we know that it's a weakness. And so I actually think that a lot of the UX work and UI work is actually like really good with privacy. Like there's actually good progress on that front because we're forced to be more obsessive about trying to solve it as a problem.
Oftentimes it's the case that the user is exposed to a lot of different choices. Like, do you want this thing to be linkable with the other, or do you want to generate yet another fresh intermediary address or something like that? So I do believe that the builders of privacy protocols need to take the responsibility on themselves to give a reasonable default choice for everything, because otherwise, like, yeah, some people want to use all these options and want to see them, but the vast majority, or at least we want to reach the majority which will not understand anything from it.
I just find that it's quite strange though. It's 2025, and then if there's UI, UX problem, then they shouldn't even start the project, to be very honest, based on my opinion. Because as an investor, I really look at things that are really basic. I'm not a tech guy. So the first thing that I experience would be, okay, this thing is functional, it works accordingly, and that's good, right? So to me, I don't see there's a UI or UX problem because things has been really mature. Maybe in the privacy world it doesn't work that well. I'm not sure, but then this is not rocket science. So it's easily change. But when we come back to the problem, that you have mentioned, about liquidity and so forth. The other main problem that also alludes back to what I was talking about, regulations, and then, there's no really big upside is the users. Many of these privacy swaps or even protocols and so forth, the main problem is that they do not have any community. If you don't have users, you don't have liquidity, right? If you don't have liquidity, you have nothing. So it goes back to the users. Of course, this has to be, usable, right? From a UI UX perspective. But main problem that I really see is the usage. If there's not enough community, not enough users, not enough hype to do this, pure educating them that privacy is important. I've been to quite a number of sessions, different projects. They kept emphasizing about privacy is important, but that education process should be slightly reversed. You just get in the users first, market this, get something more hype on your chain. It could be a meme coin, for example. Then from there you start to build your community, start to build your narrative. I think that would be a lot easier. That's from the other hat of mine, as an investor.
Right, you start with distribution and solving that side of the problems and then start to incorporate those elements. I think there's a really interesting race going on right now where the Uniswaps of the world, they're gonna start adding in privacy features. And so there's the people that started privacy first and the people that started totally transparent. And over time, both sides are going to acknowledge that it's a valuable attribute to have, but who gets there first where you solve both go-to-market, liquidity, and privacy? That's going to be interesting to see which one wins out.
In fact, that race is kind of obvious. If they start to implement that privacy layer, a lot of the other projects, could be really losing out from there. So you really need to get more implementation. Like the previous panelists, they talk about medical. He talks about supply chain, for example. Just get some of these things going, At least maybe you can't grab the retail market. You could at least get the enterprise market in some ways, Just a few cents worth, sorry.
So to kind of pivot into specifically with DeFi, what do you guys believe is going to be the killer use case that onboards the first 100,000 users, right? Because it feels like in crypto we have these little breakthrough moments like Polymarket, for instance. That's a use case that popped off and millions of people are checking it out and using it. Uniswap initially is one of the first decentralized exchanges. Stable coins are also massively adopted. So what is our private DeFi product that you think is going to stand out and truly shock people in a way that they're sprinting to come use the product? Do we even have a DeFi privacy primitive that is that differentiated that would do that? Or is this just all slight addition instead of something exponential? Does the question make sense or should I try again?
Every one of us are looking at different directions. It's please don't look at me. Let me just jump in. I think it's not so different in terms of making a breakthrough. Whether you're a privacy swap or a not so privacy swap. I think it's about bringing out the narrative, and reach out to the right people. Right now, I think if you can build something that is like the prediction market, that is really private and fair, right? At the same time, you can build this maybe on Telegram to make this really go viral. I think that would be a good choice because it's not so much of privacy first. Privacy is a must. Right, but if you need that killer app to reach out to more people, prediction market, privacy, I think it's cool. And if you are going to build this on this Telegram, it's very cool, right? You could even do things that are very simple, right? Is BTC going up or down, right? So I invested in one project which is called COPX, C-O-P-X. So they are dealing with financial AI systems, right? So they also came out with a game, to just predict BTC up or down. It's very simple, right? Then they aggregate the data and then they form some strategy for their own pool of people, You know, and that is also one model for you to stand out, you know. So there's no need to just market privacy first, right? You just market the product. If you do well, you do well, man. Again, as an investor.
I like it, yeah. How about you guys?
Yeah, I think he's right that, you know, maybe there isn't perhaps a killer use case, you know, lurking beneath the marble block, because for there to be one, it would have to be really that like the privacy is like a core component of that use case, something that you couldn't possibly do without, you know, having privacy as part of it. And I'm not sure there are many DeFi use cases that anyone's really aware of that would strongly benefit from this, that, you know, isn't already explored in some way. Outside of DeFi, I do think there are absolutely killer apps, but that's a little off topic. So
I think there are two potential benefits that protocol can get from privacy. One is of an economic part. This is where the privacy becomes part of the core logic of the protocol. So this is, for example, what Penumbra is doing with their DEX, let's say, with their exchange, where the orders are privately aggregated, and generally it's supposed to help with the price impact because it counters front running in a way. It's called a frequent batch auction. Like prediction market is also like some case where the privacy is at core. And the other benefit is that you may just have all the interaction with a given protocol anonymous. So the funny thing, which is maybe not obvious for everyone, is that to make anonymous interaction with the protocol, you don't actually need to change that particular protocol. It's enough that the users which are interacting with it are using the privacy pool. So like whether it's Railgun or some other pool. So like instead of changing every protocol that already exists into the private version of itself, it's enough that everyone will use the privacy pool as the main wallet, or like generally the privacy enhanced wallet. So that's why I think the wallets will be the first products that will reach such a big adoption, unless someone thinks about some absolutely brilliant example with a core logic that enhances the protocol. Right now, I don't think I've seen such a thing. And I do see that the currently available wallets are definitely lacking on this. I mean, they did not pass this threshold where they are as useful as normal wallets. So yeah, for me, that would be this. And I think the wallets can achieve much more than people would give them the credits for.
Interesting, solid answers all around. So maybe no distinct like one-off thing that moves the Overton window, but like lots of additive stuff. So maybe talking about transparent DeFi, what do you guys think is the most damaging negative externality of totally transparent DeFi? Well, like, because we've maybe talked about some of the unique properties it can give and some of the positives, but what negative externality do you think users actually care about the most within the world of DeFi? Because there's lots of them.
I mean, probably not everyone is aware of it, but front running and its consequences. The fact that, like in every system where the DeFi is absolutely transparent, like whenever someone is attempting to do a bigger trade, and there is a swarm of people which are attempting to front run this person, and hence, well, first thing that this person is getting the worst price. The other thing that there is a lot of this dust transactions which fail on the blockchain because there are these races to get first in the line. So like essentially all the transactions are becoming more expensive because of that. And of course we do have solutions for that on Ethereum, but what happens is that like we need to deploy this enormous ecosystems with this MEV protection solutions and so on and so on. It's all getting so terribly complex because of this this issue.
And everyone that says they have a solution, it's like there's some sort of collusion that can happen somewhere down the supply chain of MEV. It's like something breaks without having default privacy on the base layer one.
Yeah,
it's all just a bunch of mental gymnastics to try to make it better. I feel like
the solution is to sell the power to front-run people, right? Like the solution is to create a thieves guild, like where they can buy the tickets.
Democratize the market to solve a problem that shouldn't be there in the first place.
So legalize front-running and generally exploiting users. That's the current solution.
Supdoggie, Andy, any of you guys want to? One thing I will say about the front-running one is protocols can also get front run. So if you have a big treasury that's growing as a protocol in DeFi and you want to go do something on chain, you're like a passive actor, right? So when you go and try to take an action, you can get front run. So I think there's like a lot of protocol value accrual mechanisms that have been completely untouched and are completely unfeasible within transparent DeFi. So I actually think once privacy becomes more mainstream, it's actually going to help with value accrual potentially as well. So, yeah. Okay, we have like a final 3-4 minutes left here, so we'll jump forward into kind of our closing with predictions. What do you think the next 2 years looks like for private DeFi? What would your predictions on TVL and adoption, and maybe what you're most excited for in the world of private DeFi? And we'll round things out there.
Well, I think that there clearly is a demand for this, and that we're starting to see a lot of, maybe not a lot, but the initial movement of some of, some of the big movers in the space to really start to explore private DeFi. So I think in the next, you guys said 2 to 3 years? Yeah, I mean, we'll start to see adoption in the next 2 to 3 years. Not critical mass, but the beginning of like real TVL for sure.
So early adopter stage still.
Yeah.
I think the proof generation time for the majority of use cases will stop being the topic of the conversation, because it's going to be low enough to be actually useful, and people will notice another obstacles other than proof generation time when it comes to usability of stuff. Yeah, and besides that, I totally agree. Like some of the major protocols will onboard their private counterparts, so we're gonna see the first billions in TVL in private protocols probably. Although I would rather bet on the public. I would bet on it happening rather on the public networks as protocols on the smart contract level.
I think the key thing is to create the demand. Right, when we talk about tokens, we talk about market making and so forth. We should do this by creating a demand. Within this privacy circle. If you don't market make per se, create a demand, no one is going to really talk about it. And I think in future, we don't talk about future too long. To be honest, because right now is kind of the beginning of a bull run. Right, if within this bull run, all this privacy, DeFi, all these different protocol are not going to make it. It's not going to make it because of a few things. One is we did mention that some of the public blockchain, they are going to come out with a privacy feature. Some of these big swaps are also coming out with this privacy feature. So instead of them creating that demand, the real true blue privacy guys should go there and hey, can we integrate? Can we do something together? That kind of partnership will scale up a lot faster. Hence, the TVL will increase. So that's my 1 cent worth, man.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in the free market of entrepreneurship. Will these layer ones focus on being infrastructure providers for those large-scale public DeFi goods, or will the private DeFi builders beat those people to market? That's going to be a fascinating question in the next year or two.
I agree, but again, it's all about the money.
Yep.
Right, so if there's money to be made, people will shift. So again, it's building up the so-called killer app, or at least get someone to put up the flag real high, say, hey, we are the best, try us. Then things will just move on from there, to the better, I think.
So I feel like the summary of this panel was private DeFi good? Can we find the demand? And can we do it before someone else integrates privacy with large-scale distribution? So anyways, round of applause for our panelists here. Thank you guys for participating. It was awesome.